Once again, welcome to this webinar on progress in our efforts on coral research and restoration. Today, we're going to be deepening in our component of investigation and restoration, and we will be explaining how this connection and the decision making and management can orient these programs. Additionally, we will highlight the sexual and asexual components of our restoration efforts with fragmentation techniques and microfragmentation techniques and spawning events, implementation efforts, and our implementation of our Center for Coral Restoration. We have simultaneous interpretation available, which you can select in the bottom of your screen. If you can hear me, then you have already done so. Remember that there is an opportunity to ask questions, writing them down on the Q&A section, which will be answered at the end. Our program is led by Andrea Godoy, which is the investigation program manager, and she will give you a few words now. Thank you, Indira, and good morning to all of you. Thank you for joining us on this webinar to talk about the updates on our coral research and restoration efforts carried out by the Roatan Marine Park on the last year, 12 months. We're very happy to have all of you joining us. And please write any questions that you might have on the Q&A chat section in the bottom of your screen. I'm very happy to share with you now some specific details on the progress in our efforts of coral research and restoration. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Indira. My name is Andrea Godoy, and I am the program manager of the research program. And my colleagues are also with me here today, Carolina, our coordinator on reef restoration, Carolina Rojas. And we also have Velvet Teos, who's the volunteer coordinator and operations. I also want to share with you that we have very important highlighted moments that we have lived throughout this year, and we can divide these into two main components. One is the assisted sexual reproduction component, working directly with corals with their fertilization and sexual development. We have also had significant developments in the asexual reproduction of corals, updating our facilities, our structures, and our nurseries with a more efficient design, more robust, and with the support of institutions and volunteers who have helped us in reaching these successful landmarks that we're going to share with you today. One of the main achievements that we want, or the first achievements we want to share with you today, is the inauguration of our Coral Restoration Center in Roatan. This has been a very important event for the Roatan Marine Park and for the region, but this hasn't been easy. First of all, if you have been able to visit the facilities here in Santa Bay, the container took a long time to arrive in the country. About a year ago, we were able to receive the container, which arrived at the 7th of November 2024. We were able to ensure that it arrived correctly and safely from Florida. And we were all very, very hopeful and very happy and be able to see it for the first time. This is now these images. If you have been to our offices before of the Roatan Marine Park, you can see the changes it has gone through. This was the site of the construction site, and in the top photos, you can see how the site was being prepared for receiving the container. And the bottom photos show the process of preparing the area with concrete foundations where the container and the pools were going to be established or settled. There has been significant progress, and if you've seen our offices recently, you will notice a drastic change. So our backyard really needed this maintenance, this preparation for our facilities. This is now the first look of the container inside. The images taken here, the video, shows what was sent within the container. Many people asked us how we were able to receive all the materials, and this is how. And this is the great support of our coral ecosystems, and there are organizations who helped us to reach make this equipment arrive in the island. Here we can see some other images or videos or clips to show the complex process with heavy machinery, a crane to be able to settle or establish, put everything in place. It was a long process. It took multiple hours of work to be able to put it in the proper foundations and use the available space that we had near the office. It was a success, even though it was a rainy day. There was a ray of sun in the end, which is being able to successfully establish these facilities in Sandy Bay. Here, you can also see another video showing the construction process in November of 2024, where the foundations were being built. Preparation of the grounds took a while. Then in April 2025, we had the Coral Engineer Ecosystems engineer helping us install the rest of the installations, the facilities, all the pools, everything here. You can see what the offices look like in the inside, and which you can see have changed significantly. And finally, last but not least, you will ask why Andrea are you showing us this video? This is where we were able to install the new transformer of electricity to be able to have the capacity to provide all the necessary power for the running of the facilities. So that is the moment where the transformer was turned on, which is fundamental for the process that we're going to talk about today. Here is another video shows another point of view of another angle of what this area looked like. Here you can see the reservoir that was created within the container, the pools, the cones that are going to be installed, and this is what on the right looks like. It looks like once the pool is full. There are 4 of these on our site to help us for the coral larva settling and be able to carry out other type of operations when we don't have live larvae in the area, in the facilities. Also, we want to thank the Science Academia of California, where They provided a great support for the installation of these facilities. Another important milestone in this program has been the formal inauguration of our facilities. Everything you saw before was the preparation, many months of preparation with many actors, not only with the research team, but also the whole team of Roatan Marine Park, which really worked hard to be able to make sure that everything that brought from Hawaii, and then Florida, and then to the customs offices in Roatan, and be able to inaugurate these facilities in June of this year, of this Reef Restoration Center, the first one in Central America of this kind. We're very proud of this. The California Institute or Academia was present, our partners were present on the inauguration, and the process of spawning has been able to begin now. And we will talk about it more. Local authorities were also present. The ICF representative was there, the Forestry Conservation Institute, and other important actors and people that really care about this process and now are all involved in the activities of our program. Here you can see additional images of what our facilities look like before it reached its optimal level of functioning. But here you can see now, and the top images, the reservoir and container areas with its important spaces, designed spaces for its operation, where seawater is filtered and treated appropriately for its use. The other images are also of where we can see the coral larvae in its first moments, first days. It is like where newlyborns in a hospital are received. This is what we would compare it to ensure the resilience and survival is increased as when they are outplanted from the reef. So this is a very important aspect. And another process for larvae treating on land is for their settling on these pools where we have these 4 pools available, which we expect the 4 of them to be fully functional early next year. Another important achievement or success that we're really proud of, which has given us renewed motivation and strength, has been able to carry out this workshop that we called Together for the Reefs, where we had great participation of representatives and technicians or experts from different parts of the country, trained by our staff members and partners also supporting us to expand existing capacities at a national level. We also had the opportunity to, for this workshop, have 14 technicians participating. One of the very important workshop with 5 institutions or organizations, including the ICF, Serna Institute, Cayos Cochinos Foundation, Bay Islands Conservation Association, the 3 chapters, and the Center for Marine Studies with a representative from Trujillo in the mainland. So it was a very important workshop for all of us. And it was an 8-day, full day workshops with hard work and receiving advanced training in innovative reef restoration techniques. Also learning the processes of coral spawning, monitoring, assisted asexual reproduction, coral larvae breeding and settlement, they were able to use it. It was a hands-on experience, and also learning how to carry out the breeding and coral larvae settlement with a hard work, even during a holiday that was the 15th of September, included in the workshop. So we were very proud of the hard work that was carried out there.
Okay, so I will leave you now with Carolina, who will talk a little bit more about coral reproduction. Thank you. Good morning. So, as you know, there are two ways of doing reproduction of corals. As marine park, we have been able to use both of these in our restoration programs. These components require daily work, and we are constantly updating the techniques of reproduction. And we're seeking to implement them as a organization. So the idea is to be able to reproduce these over the country and have more of these in the future. It's important to mention how the sexual reproduction component was able to be part of the conservation program. This breakthrough stems from collaboration with our partners, Secor International, who are the leaders in sexual reproduction in Caribbean, Indian Ocean, Pacific, and they also have research partners in Australia. Secor has trained us in this collaboration in spawning, monitoring, gamete collection, fertilization, and also providing us with modern techniques and tools for successfully implementing different methodologies of coral larvae. And we are currently completing our 5th year of collaboration with them. We feel very proud to be able to train other local organizations and others in the Caribbean. As partners, we're also proud to have come this far after 5 years, and that we have also been able to build the first coral larval rearing laboratory in Honduras in Central America, first in Central America. And this is a new stage for us. During these 5 years, as I mentioned, RMP has been able to validate 7 species, coral species, in our spawning efforts. We have been able to monitor 7 species to corroborate and also the windows of the spawning windows. And this has been done during the north, 8 spawning sites in the north, 2 in the south. When the climate in the north does not allow us to go out, then we go to the southern area where we can also collect data and verify. We have more than 70 colonies that are monitored during the year. Between 2021 and 2023, we have monitored over 10 to 15 colonies. And over the years, we've been able to expand to more sites, which has allowed us to expand the number of colonies. So we can reach up to 2 or 3 sites that we're monitoring per species, and this allows us more possibilities of success. We also have had 4 efforts of fertilization, 2 replants of recruits of successful recruits of coral. And this is very important. This takes a lot of patience, a lot of effort, and we have been able to install a new lab that I'm going to talk a little bit to about this. Now, this year, we have been able to, we started with the coral, brain coral, and which is quite confident in its reproduction. We have been able to monitor this during May and June, which are their dates of spawning. In 2025, RMP also monitored a total of 30 colonies of this type of coral species. And during those studies, we monitored during 4 days in May, 5 in June. Together in June, we worked together with our partners in California. And in June, we observed the spawning of 5 coral colonies, and there were approximately 2 millimeters of gametes. And these are the packages that we call them, that includes the sperm and the ovules. And we call this the gametes. We were able to collect these, and we had a percentage of fertilization of almost 100% success. This allowed us to really use our laboratory for the first time and practice with our coral tanks or pools. And we had tanks that were in situ system. At the moment, we have 302 substrates transplanted onto the reef with approximately 3,000 coral recruits. Here, I would like to mention and show you which are our coral recruits from 2023. They're 2 years old at the moment. You can see in the image, in the red, where you see the red arrow, are coral recruits. These were collected and fertilized in June 2023, and this year we were able to find recruits, which really make us very happy because these are resilient corals that have survived the stress of the coral bleaching. So these are quite resilient recruits, and we feel very proud to see that our efforts have caused this success. We can see that they look a little bit transparent. Now, these are recruits from June 2023, and these were returned to the reef, and in a couple of years, they will be seen as recruits from 2023. Now, we're going to look at the species of spawns of the pillar coral. These have high value. In 2020, with the presence of the coral tissue loss disease in hard corals, this species was highly effective in the island of Roatan, to the point that it reached a point of disappearing in the island. Currently, we have been able to identify approximately 5 or 6 colonies of pillar coral that are still resilient. And together with the Gamach family, who have helped us to monitor these 4 colonies since all through 2025, and they were able to help us with the monitoring and also with collecting. And for this year, 2025, we had 4 colonies that we had identified, but one did not manage to survive because of the tissue loss disease, coral tissue loss disease, so leaving only 3 colonies. In August, the Gamach family conducted 3 nights of monitoring and succeeded in collecting sperm from a male colony and eggs from a female colony. You can see in the video, we can see a male colony that is spawning, and this is that white cloud. And they were able to collect these. They did the process of fertilization, and we gave them the technical recommendation so that this could be successful. And the collection was rather reduced. It was a little difficult because of the low number of existing colonies. But I would like to show you that the pillar coral is a resilient type of coral, and they fight to survive. And we These are a resource for our reef ecosystem, very high value resource. So the elkhorn coral, I love to talk about this species. It is known because of its majestic structure. And this elkhorn function as a natural barrier against waves and storms. And also, they exhibit rapid growth. They serve as a home for thousands of species, functioning as a true marine nursery. And so it's very important to reproduce this species. And it's important to mention that since 2023, Roatan Marine Park has been monitoring this species in search of possible spawning. However, to date, we have not been able to observe the spawning. In 2023, we monitored for 14 days, and in 2024 also 7 days. In 2025, 7 continuous days of monitoring, consecutive nights. And of course, the raise of temperature, the stress, and all this has affected the spawning efforts. So in 2025, RMP monitored in 2 different sites 20 colonies of elkhorn coral. We continue to do this annually to monitor this species collection and fertilization efforts with the purpose of reproducing new coral recruits for the reef. This species is very important to us. We are very fond of it. It's one of our favorite, as you can see. This is it includes the mountainous star coral and the regular. And here we can see that we have monitored it since 2022. It's called the lobestar coral colony. And we observed the coral bleaching really affected these colonies. But it is important to mention that they are resilient because to the present day, they have been quite very faithful to their dates of spawning, and this species has remained very faithful to that, and it continues spawning. The species we observed in August 3 consecutive nights of small lobestar coral spawning, signaling that the main event was approaching in the following month, in September. And so it was. In September, we witnessed the largest mountain star coral spawning ever recorded in Roatan. And we observed 15 colonies of spawning of this lobestar coral, and that was a very impressive night. And we did this together with participants of different programs also of the Together for the Reef program, and it was a very wonderful night. So we were able to collect those 15 colonies, and we also did the fertilization effort in the lab, where we reached 75% of fertilization, followed by the larval rearing and subsequent settlement on substrates. Now, these are the small ceramic stars that we do, that our Seeker International has helped us to be able to plant these coral. Now, after a few days, we were not able to observe the settlement. It was because this species it's a little complicated for its reproduction and for settlement. It has a little bit of difficulties, but as you know, that there could be unforeseen factors that can influence the outcome. And that this is a species that we still constantly practicing. We're doing research in collaboration with other international organizations to be able to observe how we can improve the techniques for the settlement of the substrates. Okay, so what something very important for us now is to talk about what are the future plans of the research program. We have goals that we want to reach in the at long term, starting with the commissioning and installation of the specialized laboratory. It is important that we could finalize the installation of this lab to be able to work with standards of quality and also increase our research efforts in the country. We also need to continue validating and refining the spawning prediction calendar. This is very important. And I know that the more data that we can collect, the better, so that we can actually improve the annual planning and to be able to compare one year with the next to see which year had greater amount of spawning, which had less, the reasons that could affect or decrease the amount of spawning. It's very important to continue with this validation of the calendar because it helps us to perfect our monitoring dates. To expand assisted sexual reproduction efforts across multiple species, very important. For us, we work with 5 this year, but next year we want to work with more because we are expanding diversity of species worked with the genetic diversity too. We are the aim is to increase the genetic resilience of local reefs and the diversify restoration strategies. Also, training more technicians nationwide is very important, that the knowledge that we acquire does not just stay with us, that it should be shared, that we go out and train other people throughout the country and share this data of how is it working in your area and what we can use, what we can share, learn from you. And it's also important to share with the international partner what is being done in different countries so we can see how we can strengthen each other. It is also very important to establish strategic alliances. So here we are seeking to strengthen the establish strategic alliances with national and international NGOs to be able to increase the good practices and resources. These alliances will facilitate technical exchange, creation of joint projects, and also it can bring a lot of benefit and financial opportunities to the country. And also strengthening training of the staff. As I mentioned, every year our team is updating and training programs in techniques, restoration, monitoring, and reproduction techniques. The staff have up-to-date skills. It's important to have these up-to-date skills. And we can learn these techniques from other countries and implement them in our country because we are in constant training with the purpose of modernizing our techniques and implement them in our lab. It's also important to implement financing and self-sustainability strategies for the Coral Restoration Center, generate mechanisms for financial sustainability, including partnerships that from private sector, proposals for international cooperation, recurring donation programs, and development of specialized research services. The objective is to ensure, well, our program is based on funds for the research program. And we need a lot of volunteers too, recurring donors. And financial sustainability is very important for our program. Now, future plans regarding technical techniques, strategic alliances, internal training, financial sustainable do not only strengthen this component of asexual strengthening, but also the asexual program. And these work in a comprehensive manner in essential benefits for recovering our reefs. So it's important that this continuity of efforts where asexual reproduction has a role in the process of restoration and to be able to foster the results and work together in this sexual reproduction is important. They should help each other. We should have mechanisms and strategies that can support each other.
Thank you, Carol, for your presentation. Good morning, everyone. I will talk to you about the asexual component. We usually talk about the sexual component of reproduction, but the strength and the constant growth in reef recovery capacity resides in asexual reproduction. This is a strategy, it's a silent and fundamental strategy that is on a daily basis happening in the reef. This is how the asexual reproduction program in Roatan Marine Park has continued this critical reproduction of corals. The health of a restoration program is measured by its capacity of maintaining and increasing the genetic diversity. I like to inform that there are 12 species of branch corals and 4 massive corals representing 36 genotypes of unique individuals. This is a population that is robust genetically, necessary to face environmental challenges. These genotypes are distributed on 40 structures, 40 suspended coral trees like nurseries. These provide a constant reproduction, systematic reproduction, with 60 fragments per tree, which is our installed capacity, which allows us to host 1,800 coral fragments ready to be transplanted. This number gives us a solid foundation and a biological inventory that will provide a restoration strength. Here you can see on the video our work with volunteers in the reef, taking care of the nursery. But this is just a means. Our end is to be able to take these back to the reef. And we have been able to restore 160 transplanted corals this year, each one providing life for our ecosystem. Each outplanted coral is like building one more brick in the process of restoring our reef. These results are directly proportional to the human commitment behind these numbers. We have trained 60 volunteers throughout the year who have been able to spend time and passion in conservation and restoration, and of not a few, but it's a shared responsibility that can be taught and multiplied. The care of this nursery is not trivial. There's a routine of 25 visits per year with around 3.5 hours of work on site, adding up to about 200 plus hours of maintenance, cleaning, and caring of the nurseries. There are harsh realities in the marine world. Between November 2024 and May 2025, we were forced to decide to implement a total pause in the planting activities. This pause was due to the intense bleaching stress affecting our corals and is a response of the increase of the sea temperature. So we had to protect our genetic stock and maintain the corals in an area where they could be kept under under low stress in our nurseries. With our partners' support, we have been able to carry out these outplanting activities in May of this year, 2025, and this is a sign that resilience is coming back to the reefs, and we are optimistic, and we understand the importance of patience and adaptation. This also has taught us the importance of innovation, efficiency, and hard work. We have implemented strategies of microfragmentation, allowing us to maximize our use of genetic strength and have better efforts in reef coverage. We have replaced old tree designs for a more robust and lasting design. With this new structure or these new nurseries are these nurseries will be able to withstand harsher conditions, marine conditions for many years. This expansion is also improving on the microfragmentation of massive corals, which has increased to 3 coral species more. We have achieved all this thanks to the community. This is a team sport. Conservation is a team effort. And we want to thank all our volunteers and the diving operations who have been fundamental in these efforts, not only economically and logistically, but with a conservation partnership, a genuine partnership. We thank the support of vessels to be able to have access to the nurseries and the support in and fundamental support of recreational divers training in restoration methodologies and monitoring, coral monitoring. This is all important to help us understand and protect the reef ecosystems beyond the asexual reproduction. I want to thank the divers, administrative personnel, and all the staff supporting us. They are all silent supporters of the reef. I want to give you some announcements. If you know me well, I want to announce things. We're always looking for volunteers throughout the year, no matter the season, to help us with maintenance of our nursery, with outplanting efforts as well. We're always seeking certified divers, volunteers for monitoring of coral spawning and fish spawning sites. And this is something that's very important in our research program, to have the support of our diver communities. In this month, we are also implementing a reef monitoring program. This is a program where we seek more advanced divers specifically to support. In this program, we are seeking to establish a baseline to identify the 20 dive sites, the status of 20 dive sites around the island, where we take note of substrate data, invertebrates, corals, and fish to understand how the reef is interacting in different seasons of the year. For more information, please contact Carolina Rojas, who's the national coordinator of this initiative. So I also want to clarify or mention that our data is very solid, our nursery is very strong, our community is committed, and our community is also adaptable, and we are learning and overcoming challenges in sexual and asexual reproduction, working with energy and renewed effort. I want to thank our team, the volunteers, and our allies, our collaborators. The future of the reef depends on each fragment, each immersion, and each hour of dedication.
Muchas gracias a
Thank
Andrea,
you,
Carolina
Andrea,
y Valverde por sus
Carolina, and
excelentes
Velvet,
participaciones.
for your participation.
Ya estamos pasando a nuestra sección de
We are
preguntas y
now moving
respuestas,
on to our Q&A section.
así que pueden ir dejándolos en el
So
chat.
please remember to write down your questions on the Q&A tab in the bottom of your screen.
Ok, pero antes de poder llegar a esa sección, les quiero
Before we move on
recordar
to this
que
section, I
para
want to
mantenerse
remind you
informados sobre todas las
that to
actividades que
keep
estamos
or to stay
haciendo en
informed in
Roatan,
all of all our
en
activities
diferentes
in
programas,
Roatan Marine Park and our
invitamos
different
a unirse a nuestro
programs,
canal de WhatsApp. Es un
you can
canal donde pueden
join our
enterarse
WhatsApp
literalmente en
channel
tiempo real de las actividades que está haciendo el equipo.
to keep updated in all the activities that our team is carrying out.
Asimismo, queremos destacar que
We
todo
also
este
want to
esfuerzo no
highlight
sería
that all
posible
these
sin el
efforts would not
apoyo de nuestros
be
donantes y
possible
nuestros socios. Son esa
without
gasolina,
the support of
este
our donors and partners.
este motor
The,
adicional que
the
nos da
fuel, the time, the
puntos para poder
vessels,
continuar
everything
realizando
necessary,
estas
all the
actividades, tanto
resources necessary to
personas
carry out these
como las
activities.
empresas e instituciones que nos
People,
apoyan.
companies, institutions that support us.
Así que les animamos a sumarse, ¿verdad?, a esta campaña de donación de final de
So
año.
please join us in
Así,
this
¿y cómo
final
pueden
end of year
hacerlo?
campaign.
Formando un grupo de 20 amigos o
How joining a
familiares,
group of
compañeros de
20
trabajo y
friends,
motivándolos a que
relatives, work,
de esos 20 grupos, de esas 20, ese grupo, ¿verdad? 20 personas pueden donar
anybody
20
that
dólares,
wants to join
lo que
to
equivale a más o
donate
menos
$20 each for the
poco más de
conservation of
500 lecturas. Y
Rotan's
estos
marine and
fondos
coastal
son
ecosystem. These
esenciales
funds
para poder
are
asegurar
essential
que realicemos estas y otras actividades
for
próximamente.
conservation activities
Cada aporte
this year
cuenta
and many
y
years to come. Each
realmente hace la.
contribution is valuable and counts.
Así que aquí tenemos los
So
QRs
we
en pantalla
have
y también estamos
the
dejando
QR
el de
code on screen.
tanto de donación como el del WhatsApp group
There's a
en el
donate
chat.
today code and the WhatsApp joining group code as well.
¿Ok? Entonces ya entramos a la sección de preguntas y
So now
respuestas
we
y
can enter into the
procedemos a
Q&A
una
section.
pregunta. Y la primera nos
So we
dice que
see the first question on
dado
screen.
que la cantidad de
Since
coral
the
pilar
amount of pillar coral
que sobrevivió a la
that
enfermedad
survived
dengue en
the
Arturo
EPTCD
están baja en el Caribe, están
is
compartiendo
so low
genotipos
in the
con otros
Caribbean,
lugares o
are you
países.
sharing genotypes with other locations or countries? Thank you for this question. To respond to your question, currently the Roatan Marine Park is not involved in these types of initiatives. However, we are part of a group that is interested in carrying out these types of activities or exchanges in the Caribbean region with SECOR International and other partners. This is something that's being developed or constructed. It is not a immediate process. It needs funding to be able to train staff to collect samples. We have to also ensure the right permits and the support of local and national government for this exchange of genetic material. But it is something that's in the horizon. There are several steps that need to be taken and complied with to be able to reach this, but it is something that is we are targeting and we hope to be able to attain in the future. Thank you for your question.
Muchas gracias. Tenemos otra pregunta por
We
acá.
have another
Y
question
dice,
here.
felicidades por su increíble trabajo. Una pregunta, ¿qué factores
Thank you for your
ambientales
incredible
o biológicos
work.
están influyendo el deseo de
What
cobrar cuerno de alce? ¿Y
efforts
qué
are
reglas
being
y cápsulas
implemented for
científicas son
coral
recomendables?
elkhorn coral? Thank you for this question. With this elkhorn coral species, it's very, very challenging. In 2023, we began monitoring of this species, and this is the year when we were affected by the coral tissue loss disease uh, affectation due to thermal stress. This species is located in a shallow area. Its habitat is around 2 to 4 meters of depth, and this is where the temperature is even warmer or even higher. That is why this coral species is greatly affected to thermal stress. And even though it's not affected by stony coral tissue loss disease, it is affected by heat stress. So we are receiving a lot of training, and we are part of different networks where we are exchanging knowledge related to the reproduction of conservation of the species sexually and asexually in a controlled environment, promoting its sexual reproduction in an off-site environment. We are always researching different uh, uh, environments where we can mitigate these different consequences.
Gracias, Carol.
Thank you,
Tenemos
Carol.
otra por acá
Another
que nos
question we
dice que ellos
have.
viajan de forma anual a, a Roatán y quieren
They talk
participar en
about
estas
the
actividades de
visiting
educación.
annually to
¿Cuáles
the
serían los
island.
consejos que les
How can they
caracterizan
participate,
participar en las
and what
actividades que
advice
se van a
give
presentar
can you
con
give
nuestro
us
programa que deberían
regarding
de aprender?
participating in the programs that you promote, and how can we join these? All volunteers are welcome during the year. You can contact us through our social media channels, through our emails, which you can find on our web platform or web page. You can contact Andrea, Carolina, Indira, or myself, Velvet, and everybody's gonna. I receive the information and I can continue on the conversation through email or WhatsApp and be able to work together, come up with a schedule and decide what activities can be carried out depending on the type of the year. So in January, even though there's no coral spawning, there is substrate acclimation, there are substrate pools or tables set. We are at tag colonies to prepare for the spawning season. Then we have the fish spawning aggregation snap of of that's carried out in March and April of groupers, and there's different activities throughout the year depending on the season. But all volunteers are welcome any time of the year, even volunteers that are outside of the water, especially with help with spawning of corals in the lab. It's like taking care of babies that are very fragile for 24/7. So please talk to us, contact us. The emails are on the chat, and we can talk about what can be the best support you can give us, whether it is by hands-on activities or even through donations, as indeed I mentioned. Also, there are asking us about internships, professional practices. Is there this possibility to participate in these activities? Yes, we invite any of you, all of you that are interested in participating in an internship or professional supervised practice, contact us. And Indira is going to share the email, and I am in charge of this. And you can contact me directly or Carolina, and you can let us know what is your interest and how much time you want to participate. It's important to include your CV and a letter of intention describing your skills and knowledge and work you want to carry out with our organization. And we can contact you, and we're very happy to find a way to make this happen. And thank you for your interest. And this is also something we can communicate through email. Thank you, Andrea. We have another question here. Were pillar corals being able to be recovered in the spawning of this year? Yes, a good question. In August, the collection was done of a male colony and one female colony that spawned. The Ganesh family was able to collect the sperm and the eggs and were able to do fertilization, assisted fertilization in the container. But it's worth highlighting that since the collection was only done of one colony each, so the amounts were very small. To be able to carry out a successful fertilization, we need more colonies for collection. So if we would have been able to collect it of at least three male and female colonies, this would have allowed better results for fertilization. As I mentioned, in my presentation, this species was greatly affected by the stony coral tissue loss disease since 2020, where it was seen in the island. To date, we still have this disease present, but not so aggressive as in 2020 and 2021. But it is affecting pillar coral species that are present and surviving. So if the number is reduced of colonies, the efforts are even harder for fertilization. This is something that other organizations in the Caribbean have carried out, where they have introduced microfragmenting practices in an on XC2 or offsite environment to be able to promote the species with asexual reproduction and help them reach sexual maturity to reproduce them in a lab. This is something that I've mentioned. Our newly inaugurated lab is still in development. We are learning in the process, but we are going step by step, being able to reach this level of developing, having coral fragments, and become the restoration center that will allow us to intervene with more species in the future. We have other questions regarding people who are interested in becoming volunteers or participate in activities, and they want to know basically what do they have to do and how do they have to prepare. Remember, you have to contact us through email, because each case is different. We have another question here. Comments from Diana, who is saying hi and congratulations and wishes success in our efforts. And there's also a question if corals can experiment sound stress due to vessels, boats, and if gasoline can cause damage. Regarding sound stress, as Roatan Marine Park, we don't have exact data of what kind of stress corals can be immersed in, but there are studies that show that when reproduction of a healthy reef is emitted to a reef, this actually promotes that promotes the reproduction of corals. So this is a very positive thing, but I don't have any knowledge of what can affect the sound of vessels. Gasoline is highly harmful. If there's a spill or affectation of oil in water, can affect the quality of the reefs, alter nutrients and light penetration necessary for corals. And obviously, it's highly toxic for corals and people. So gasoline is definitely very, very harmful. Thank you, Andrea.
Okay, so they're asking us if we have been mapping the corals that are reproducing or that are spawning in this collection, spawning collection, if we're using this information to do genetical research. Okay, regarding this question, we have to acquire this type of knowledge as a team. Regarding genetic diversity in other countries, currently they have received training and are constantly learning how to do the genetical study of each one of the species, because each colony has a different genetical type. And it's very important for us to acquire this knowledge to be able to do this with our parent colonies, to be able to identify this issue so that in the time when we are making the collection to know what the genetic diversity is. As you know, we are part of a network where we are planning for the future with other organizations such as SICRO International to be able to look at this genetical diversity both in Honduras and also make a comparison with other countries, and also to be able to look into future exchanges of different genetical types of species. And I understand that in other countries they have already done this, that they've been able to obtain fragments from one country and be able to do assisted fertilization with this. So we're going through that stage where we are wanting to train regarding genetical diversity of our coral and to implement the knowledge on genetic diversity in the future to be able to obtain more robust corals in our areas, in our parent colonies. Okay, 2 more questions. Do you have a genetic map of the corals of the nurseries of the recruits within your center? Yes, we have. Each one of our trees is a different genotype. And we have identified these genotypes with the different species that we have in the nurseries. These species also have been identified. We also have a map showing where this genotype comes from. Some of them come from Cordelia, others from the West Bay, others from Sandy Bay area. We have this database that allows us to identify what genotypes in each area are resilient regarding the different diseases that affect the corals. Also, we are constantly updating our database in order to learn what genotypes have been able to survive. And now that we have the nursery, we can also observe which genotypes are more resilient and to identify which are the parent colonies. Where does, for example, where this collection of gametes comes from, identify them on the reef itself, and we have these colonies on each of the reefs in order to be able to identify which were the parent colonies. So we have a question of who are my parents? Do our annual monitoring to be able to see these colonies. We know that these are resilient colonies, and we want to continue working with these parent colonies and expand to others. Thank you very much. We also have greetings from some partners. Claudia Guerrero from Healthy Reef says success, and definitely all initiatives are necessary in these difficult times for the reefs. And we have a last question, and it also has to do with the financial part of the research. And okay, so our area has to do with marine conservation, and the efforts of research obviously have significant costs. And that is why we motivate our donors and volunteers to engage in these activities and to help us with their collaboration, because every organization can help this effort. We also have the monitoring sessions where we have the diving, also the diving activities and the alliances. And any of these donations really contribute significantly to be able to contribute to these efforts so that we can restore the corals that we have in Roatan. And we invite you to join the 2020 campaign, where you can get 20 friends or 20 family members during this holiday season and make a donation of $20 for a group. And this donation really is very significant for our operations. So I think these are the last questions that we have here. And we also have a last question from Martina that we're going to answer by email, because it's requesting specific data. So you can send us an email to marinepark.org, and we will answer any of your questions. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for being with us today, and whether you are joining us for the first time, or if you are a person that has been supporting us throughout the years. Thank you very much for joining us today, and have a wonderful day.